Hi, greetings. It's me, Dr. Paul Gerhardt, and today's presentation is going to be about speeches that are used to inform. Have you ever wondered why some people can give a speech and people are just captivated and they continue to listen to the end and then they take action? Well, hopefully after watching this video, you'll understand exactly why that happens. If you've watched other videos, you know that I've been doing public speaking for over 20 years. And it really is a skill that I have learned to develop and help a lot of people understand some of the things that I've studied and experienced in my life. And if this interests you, hopefully you'll be able to do the same thing too. So let's talk about how to effectively give speeches that inform. So in this presentation, we're going to talk about the different types of informative speeches. And those include reporting, instructing, and explaining. Some basic principles are about learning from the known and the unknown. Talk about serial learning, reinforcement, and emphasis. We're going to talk about clarity and interest, achieving clarity and how to develop interest more specifically. And then being able to organize your material in a way that makes your presentation work smoothly and effectively. So when we talk about reporting, this is all about giving an account or description of events, places, special objects, interesting people, and that kind of stuff. We can help make the organization really be very, very clear about what its specific purpose is and how each individual affects the outcomes of the overall success of the organization. A lot of these types of speeches are really about instructing people. In order to do so, you have to plan carefully. Think about exactly what you want people to leave with, what kind of skills, understanding, do you want them to have, and knowledge, and then from planning things out, figure out the right method to get them from point A to point Z. Then you have to test it to make sure that it works. Maybe you're practicing in front of friends and family who will critique your presentation to make sure that they understand what it is that you're trying to help them understand. Always when you're doing presentations, come early and check your physical space. Be aware of what it looks like so you can mentally prepare yourself for presenting in that environment, and make sure that things are set up in a way that helps people be focused on your message and best be able to work through any activities or discussions that you have. Always be able to calculate risks of information that you're going to be presenting, and then be thinking about alternative plans. So sometimes you may have an audience that has a preference towards some things, but you're going to be giving information that might make them feel uncomfortable or even close you out. Figure out how you're going to navigate those types of scenarios. It's really hard to please everyone in a presentation, but it is possible, as much as possible, to at least get people to see things a little bit differently and ease up on things. When you are explaining things in your speech, really be thinking about what really is meaty, but not over people's head. Make sure that you're focusing on the facts and don't be too technical if that's possible. If things are theoretical, help them really to be able to understand how practical it is, and know that you have to be objective in your presentation and absolutely accurate. So from the known to unknown, this topic really is best understood if it can be compared to something that the audience really knows. Find something that can help people know more about whatever topic it is by comparing it to something. Serial learning is about when people recognizing that people learn better when things are arranged sequentially. When you do this, then this happens. When you do this, then this happens. When you do this, then this happens. Learning serially happens when each portion of the sequence can be immediately connected. So people need to see how the events fit together to get to the end. It's important to reinforce and emphasize different facts. And I like to think about the stimulus, response, then reinforcement. When something happens, you always have the right to choose. So apply the best response, and then reinforce the good behavior. You did something, good job. That's really good. You're getting the results you're looking for. Or that didn't work out the way that it should happen. It should happen this way. So the magic 3 is really the magic number in giving presentations. So find ways to emphasize information 3 times to reinforce it. And I do things like, let me tell you this one more time. Diversity truly does have benefits, but you must learn how your actions affect other people. Again, let me repeat that. And so, I'm not going to repeat it for you, but sometimes recognizing that doing things 3 times truly can help. When you raise your voice, that also helps make an emphasis on key points. Diversity truly does matter, and we're all diverse. How are you going to leverage diversity? So being able to emphasize, accentuate key words, raise your volume, get excited when it's appropriate to get excited. These kinds of things help really pound home key ideas. Clarity really is absolutely important. You want to consider the time that you have and figure out what are the key points that you really want people to walk away with in that specific period of time. You may have too much information in there, but I always think of the analogy, if I had to throw things off the boat that are less important than the other things, what things would I throw off the boat? So be very, very clear that you absolutely need to be honest about things. If you believe things to be false, don't say them. People all have BS meters inside of them, bologna sandwich. So be very, very clear on you have to be honest. It'll ruin your credibility otherwise. Don't say anything that lacks adequate evidence. Sometimes we like to say things because we believe it to be true, but if there isn't any supporting evidence, that can ruin your credibility. Make sure that you recognize how important being relevant to your audience is. So make sure that you're talking about something that's really important to people, that will pique their interest and they'll want to listen more. If it's not relevant, don't use it as an example. Don't be ambiguous if possible, and make sure that you're not being too wordy in your presentation. And again, I want to focus on keeping it organized. Don't go here to there to here to there to here to there. Make it easy for people to understand the connections between where you're going and get them to the end where you need them to be at the right time. So be very, very specific about things. That helps develop interest. Recognize that if you bring up a tough topic where there's conflict involved, that may be pushing people away. We want people to understand the value of it, and if you also want to help people understand why people may feel like there's some conflict with this. Because that's okay sometimes. I like to believe that it's okay that you see things differently. Now we have more things to work with. Some things may be unusual or exotic, rare, or strange. Those kinds of things develop people's interest. Did you know that over X amount of situations where people had this, bringing up something interesting. I'm not very good at bringing things up. But, plan these things out. Pique people's interest by saying things that help answer unanswered questions. Pique people's curiosity. Keep people in suspense to want to learn more. After the break, we're going to talk about this amazing thing. Stay tuned. So that's the kind of stuff that people do. So be very, very clear about the level of immediacy that is out there, making sure that you understand what kinds of things are of concern to people. Sometimes self-preservation or their reputation or property or sources of livelihood and freedoms, these things capture people's attention, the what's in it for them, right? Using humor, got to be careful with that. Sometimes you may not be very funny, and it may be a turnoff to people when you try to be funny. So you could get mixed results with humor if you really aren't funny. So use humor effectively and don't attempt to be funny. If you come off not funny, it could really kill your presentation altogether. You want to keep people's attention. So grab your listeners' attention. Create a desire for them to want to listen. Use natural credibility. Statistics and curiosity really help. Keep listeners' attention and be able to support and elaborate. Let me tell you why. Or here's another example that you may find helpful as you. So that's kind of language that really, it's all about your audience, and they're not going to listen to you unless you give them a reason to listen to you. Make it easy. So essentially the formula, and you've probably heard me say this before, tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them why, and then tell them the content, and then repeat it. Tell them what you've told them. So introducing the idea, hey, this is really important, and let me tell you about it. Here's why you should really listen to this, because it does have an impact on you. Then give them the information to help them understand. And then at the bottom, so again, I want to emphasize these are the key ideas. And so that's the magic formula there. Tell them what you're going to tell them why, tell them, and tell them what you've told them. So again, get their attention. Give your audience an overview of what you're going to say and why they should listen. Then give them the information. Then review the information. Easy enough, right? So that's your order of interest. Get their attention. Give the overview of what they're going to say. Tell them why they should listen. Inform them. And then review what you've said. So the most common types of informative speeches in review are reporting, instructing, and explaining. Some learning principles related to communication are relating to new information, to what an audience already knows, ordering the material in some serial progression that makes it easier for people to follow and relate to significant points, and reinforcing the messages and the responses through using a sensible amount of information and repetition. Make sure you're using the right emphasis, and you're organizing things, and you're making sure that your voice is loud enough and accentuating the importance of things appropriately. You're recognizing the rewards and punishment and other meanings. Make sure you're not doing too much repetition, and you're not doing too little for that matter. Make sure that you're very clear on the primary goals of informative speaking, which is to achieve clarity and piquing interest, help people to want to take different actions. So make sure that you are using illustrations and examples and analogies and comparisons and statistics and testimony, and then restatement as much as possible. Other factors that can create and add interest are being very, very specific, recognizing conflict or creating conflict, novelty, curiosity, immediacy, vital concerns of the audience, and of course humor. So it really is important that you have an organized speech that effectively catches people's attentions, tells them why it's important, and moves them to take action and see things a little bit differently. So I know that I've given you a lot of information about speeches that inform. Hopefully you've taken some of this information of value and can apply it right away. And even more than that, I hope that you have a great day, because only you get to choose how you feel about it. I'm